Good afternoon. This is Ira Monko with Onboard Informatics. I just want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to attend this webinar. Today we will be talking about Onboard's IDX Listings API. It's about a 20-minute webinar, so I'll run through that on the screen, and there's quite a bit of information that I want to get through. So if you would, just save your questions and comments for the end, and we'll have a little bit of time to go over those. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. For those of you who aren't familiar with Onboard, here we go. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Onboard, we were founded in 2002, and we are primarily a data aggregation company. We're a software as a service provider. We do business to business, so none of our products and services go direct to the consumer without first passing through one of our clients. The industries that we typically focus on are real estate, publications, and online portals, and one of our core competencies is customer service. So we like to pride ourselves on going that extra mile to ensure that our clients are satisfied and successful. So what is data aggregation? Essentially what Onboard does is we go out and we gather a lot of different disparate data sources. And you'll see over here on the left-hand side, I've gone ahead and listed some of those. We go out and collect county tax information from all the counties nationwide. We have MLS information, which we'll be talking about today. We have local amenities, things like businesses and city government, all of that. We have demographics data, census data certainly, and beyond that. School information, and we have consumer expenditure and behavior information, crime statistics. All told, we have 166,502 data sources that we go out and collect throughout the year. And when we get that information, we go ahead and we plug it into a central data platform where we do all of our processing. And that comprises of over 1 billion records. From that data platform, we're able to produce really 3 types of output. The first is hosted applications, and like I mentioned before, all of our hosted applications are white labeled, so they for our clients. We have APIs, and we have bulk data. So the IDX Listings API, this was pioneered by Onboard in August 2009, and at that time, a lot of the MLSs weren't real familiar with the notion of the API, even though a lot of people were using Google Maps, that's probably one of the first and most popular APIs. Not everybody necessarily knew exactly what an API, and there was some trepidation. And we were able to, through some education, help the MLSs realize that by providing the IDX information via API, we actually have a much tighter level of security and control over who has access to the data and when that data is refreshed. We currently have 180 MLS feeds mapped in our system, and that comprises of 2.5 million active listings. We have powered over 14,000 websites, mobile sites, and mobile apps. The API is a single standardized RESTful API, so it's a single endpoint that you would develop against. It is all hosted up in a cloud-based production infrastructure, so it's certainly scalable. And all of the media and the images are hosted in a CDN, so they're pre-cached into memory. A couple client examples that you might be familiar with. Better Homes and Gardens just recently launched, and you can go ahead and take a look at them at bhtrealestate.com. I think one of the things you'll notice is they were able to, by using our API, incorporate a lot of lifestyle features, which really works well with their brand. Century 21 is another prominent client of ours using the Listings API. You can see them at century21.com. One of the things I like about their implementation, right here on the map, you can see the geographic boundary, which I think is really helpful to the consumer on this search, and that is also coming from our data set. And then another, more of a local regional broker who recently launched is Jason's House. So if you go to jasonshouse.com, you can take a look at their implementation. And I like to point this one out. It's you know, they really make use of the imagery, making that very prominent. So the onboard production process, what does that look like? Well, every 3 hours we go out and via RETS, we will pull down the listings data from the MLSs. Now, you know, granted, not all MLSs make this data available that frequently, but where it is, we certainly do that. We grab it and keep it up to date and fresh. Once we get it into our data platform, we do some pre-processing on it. So we'll do address standardization, correction, and geocoding. The reason we do this is it helps make a more effective search implementation for the search engine. We also do feature and area standardization. So you know, features would be things like basement or a pool. And if you're familiar with MLS data, you'll know that a lot of these data points will be contained in different data columns and often with very different values. Sometimes they're written out, sometimes they're codes. Well, we go through and we will standardize all of those. We also do the area standardization. So when brokers and agents go through and they tag listings with housing developments or schools, we'll go through and put those into standardized columns so that once you've developed against one MLS, it's very easy to roll into another MLS. In addition to the information that the broker and agent provides, we will also do some pre-processing with our geographic boundaries. And so a couple of those that we have are neighborhoods and school attendance zones. So often you'll find that the agent or the broker won't necessarily indicate what school that a property belongs to. Well, we're able to tell you that and make it searchable. And so that also includes school districts. And then finally, we do amenities tagging. So we can tell you, well, what is the closest park or playground to each property and the distance. We can tell you what's the closest mass transit and the school information, which includes private, parochial, and public. Let's talk about some of the request types, and this can, these can be categorized in three main ways. The first is get listings by, and so you'll see, we certainly have the the typical property characteristics search, so bedrooms, bathrooms, square feet, price. In addition to that, like I mentioned, you can search by geographies. So, what neighborhood does it exist in? Zip code, county, city. We also have the ability for you to search by address. So, what are the properties that are close to a specific address, and you can also indicate the radius from that. We also have the ability for you to search for listings by commute time, and this takes actual driving into consideration. So it's not as the crow flies. It will tell you based on either distance or time. So you can say, I want to see property that's within 30 minutes of work, or I want to live, within 100 miles of my in-laws. You can certainly use our API to find those results. And then we also have the WKT searches, so map-based searching. You can either pass in a user-defined polygon, which would be perhaps the four corners of a map, or it can be an irregular shape. You could use this to actually develop your own custom boundary areas. Perhaps you had sales areas that you wanted to create searches for. And then finally, we have the ability to search for listings based on specific events. So what properties have had a status change after a certain amount of time, and what properties have changed within price over a time period, or what properties are going to have an open house. The next major category of request type is get listings detail, and there are 254 unique fields of data that we return back. And that includes all of the information from the MLS plus the information that Onboard adds to each record. And then finally, we have helper calls or lookups, that will help in all of the development. So what are all the features for a feed? What are all the styles? What are all the views? What are the property types? What are all the geographies? And what are the relationships between those geographies? We give you all that information. And then who are the agents, who are the brokers? So let's actually start looking at some of these calls. And I apologize, I'm going to have to show these to you from saved searches on my machine. We had a fire alarm in our office right before the webinar, so I'm across the street, and our IP whitelist is not, won't allow me to search from here. So I'm just going to jump over here. This is what the call would look like, and you can see, like I mentioned, it's a RESTful call. You simply pass in the lookup types, and you receive back the following XML. And please don't judge me for using Microsoft Windows as my browser. So here are all the different lookup calls that we have. You can see, the commute type searches, profile attributes. There's just a host of them here. The next slide here is show me all the styles in a feed. And so by running that, you'll get back all of the searchable styles for this feed. And I believe this feed is in Florida, and so you'll see, here are the descriptions, and then we also provide back the actual listing count for the number of active listings for each one of these styles. So you can make a determination whether or not you actually wanted to include that in your listing search control, perhaps. The next example that I want to show you is show me neighborhoods by school district. And so you'll see in this example, by passing in the school district ID and the neighborhood ID, will show you the relationship between those two. So, once again, here's the description of the neighborhood and the listing count of the number of active listings in that neighborhood. And this is, like I mentioned, this is the relationship between those two geographic boundaries. So let's actually get into doing some listing searches. In this example, I want to see a detached single-family home with at least 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms under $500,000. That's waterfront with a pool on a golf course and is zoned for East Bay High School. It's quite a mouthful and a pretty specific search. And you'll see by doing that, get listings by geography. We are able to pull back, and you'll see up here in the header, that's all the information. So here is the school district ID. Here are the features: pool, waterfront, golf course, the price, property type, bedrooms, bathrooms, and here are all the listings that come back. You'll see this is we returned back 7 records. Another example would be one of those user-defined polygons, and so you'll see I have a string of latitude longitudes. The other thing that I'm showing you here is the ability for our system to commingle feeds. So we have 3 MLSs that we're getting results back from, and so the get listings by WKT. Up in the header, we return back all the search parameters, and you'll see in this example we got 26 records back. And then show me property details. So you have the ability to either filter by an MLS ID or an OB property ID. And the OB stands for Onboard, and that is a unique identifier across all MLSs. So a lot of people will use that when they're trying to facilitate functionality on their back end to know what unique properties are. And so you simply pass that in, and you will notice there are quite a few more data points that come back. All right. So going back to a listing search, this is a single listing, and this is a listings detail. So quite a few more. And when you're looking at the results here, all of these features are the information coming back from the MLS. In addition to that, we also have information here that Onboard is tagging, right? So here are some of those points of interest. We have an average school rating for all the schools in that area. The points of interest, some of the geography, so county, subdivision, neighborhood, census place. We give you the school district. This property belongs to Eisenhower Middle School, East Bay High School, Summerfield Elementary School. And then like I mentioned, we have a CDN for the property images. So show me some property photos. The default size for a property photo is 398 by 298. And we have the ability to, and so we also have the default size for a thumbnail is 129 by 96. Well, we also have the ability to show you the full resolution that's available within the MLS. So if you prefer to have that, and let me just show you what some of those look like. So this would be the default size, thumbnail size, and the original size. So you see the original is quite a bit bigger. But you can, if you prefer, you can also resize real time. And you might want to do that so that you're not doing it on the client side and or to save some bandwidth. So in this example, I decided, well, show me the photo with a width of 500, and we will maintain the correct aspect ratio of that and send it back. So you'll take a peek at that, and there is the same photo but resized to 500 wide. We also have the ability, if you want, you can indicate a background color. So if you sent in the height and the width, then you're overriding the aspect ratio, and we will fill in the background with whatever color you indicate. Default is white. So in this case, I said I'd like to have it maroon, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that. So that really just takes off some of the lifting from your application. So show me the future. The future is RESO. RESO stands for the Real Estate Standards Organization, and you can, if you're not familiar with that, you can go read more about that at reso.org. And that has been adopted by NAR, and they just released an announcement that by July 2016, in order to be compliant, you're going to have to adopt the RESO standards when consuming the listings, the IDX information. So, fortunately, Onboard is heavily involved in driving that, helping to drive the standards, and the next release of our IDX API will be compliant, so we can certainly help you out. Well, what does that mean? You know, the RESO standard is based on OData, which is also, you know, once again, it's a RESTful architecture. It is fortunately, you know, it's built around best practices within the data industry, not just real estate. And fortunately, there are lots of open source technologies that already exist, so it's fairly easy to consume. As opposed to REST, which wasn't necessarily built on best practices. It was a little bit more of a one-off. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, you can go to reso.org. The 1.3 version of the data dictionary is available. And if you would like to learn even more, we will be doing a webinar next month to cover that in more detail. I simply didn't have time to do that on today's call. And I wanted to give you guys certainly some time to ask some questions. So there is my contact information. I certainly welcome you to contact me directly if you have any further questions that we don't cover today, if you're interested in learning more about our IDX API. And now let me just jump over and see if we got any questions from the group. All right, so it looks like Jerome, sorry, it's my screen is really small here. So Jerome Elver is asking, can you cover if Canada data is available, anything outside of the U.S.? So great question, and no, unfortunately today, the only data that we have available for the IDX API is from MLSs within the U.S. Are there any other questions? Okay. I don't see any other questions coming through. So like I mentioned, you have my information here, Ira Monko at imonko@onboardinformatics.com. Please feel free to reach out to me, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.